Welcome to Business Mastery with Dawn Kennedy, your quick under 45-minute dose of expert insights and strategies to make a positive impact on your business and life. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. This is part 2, held up 4 fingers, but it's part 2 on how AI and AI search is making it harder and harder for people to find your website, and some steps that you can take to make sure that you're ranking and people are finding you and that you are being put out there as the expert. So we can do just a quick recap. Jimmy is back. Can you tell everyone again who you are and who you serve?
Sure. Dawn, glad to be back. This will be a fun conversation. I'm the VP of Brand Communication at Thrive Internet Marketing Agency. We're celebrating 20 years, and that's kind of a unicorn in the digital marketing space. But yeah, we serve all types of businesses from mom and pops all the way up to enterprise organizations, and we're full service.
Amazing. All right. If you didn't catch the first episode, the part 1, you're definitely going to want to catch that part 1. Now we're diving into the part 2. Let's just do a little bit of a recap because you did a great job kind of summarizing why we're not going to websites anymore, why they're not ranking, and how Google is no longer, how people are necessarily discovering businesses.
Sure. I think it's all happening very fast and everyone's head is spinning. And we sort of saw the proverbial writing on the wall a few years ago when ChatGPT launched. And then as certainly Google has moved into AI mode, and it's going to probably be predominant as far as the way that search goes. And then a lot of people have these devices, whether it's an Alexa device that they have sitting there, a Google Home device that they're talking into their phone. There's more conversational search going. And then we have these other platforms like Perplexity and Claude, and again, ChatGPT that can surf the internet. And they are providing a different type of response than a traditional search in Google. And I think that's the major shift with these large language models, as they're called, or LLMs for short. And, because we serve a bunch of different types of businesses, we see these types of things going on, and folks come to us and say, hey, my organic rankings have dropped, my traffic has dropped, what's going on? And hopefully we can get into that and give people more context today about exactly the technology behind it. And, there's some things that you can do immediately that will help. And it's not rocket science. You just have to understand what's going on in the background.
Amazing. So just to recap the one big shift. So Google, right, they were keywords on SEO and AdWords, and that's how you ranked.
Right.
But the AI models look at AAET.
EEAT, yep.
EEAT. Okay.
Yep.
Can you just tell us the difference there?
Sure. So it's funny, Google set the tone for what they like to see with a website. And these other AI models, whether they adopted it or they just realized that that's the right way to go. And so EEAT is the acronym for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And I would say the more you can communicate about your brand related to those 4 things, obviously, if you capture all of them, that's awesome. If you do one, that's a good starting point. But when I think, and I mentioned ChatGPT before, when that tool came out, I think a lot of people took that as the easy button to create content. But what we're seeing, and probably what a lot of the listeners have experienced, is it cannot write about your expertise, experience, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. Those are things that are embedded into your brand. And um, we'll get into customer reviews and sentiment and things like that. But I would say at the basic level, kind of do this, step out of your business and look back at your business and go, yeah, we've been around for a while. We do great stuff. Does my website really reflect that? Do I have a content off my website that really reflects my EEAT? And yeah, I think that if we just had one thing that came out of this episode that folks could dig into, and there's a lot of places that you can put a lot of good spots for that EEAT, we can get into that. But I would say lean in on that because that's going to be a differentiator, and it's also going to help you rank not only in Google, in AI mode, but these large language models as well.
Right. And just to make sure that we're like crystal clear on
Sure.
this has happened in the marketplace, whether we like it or not. And if
Mhm.
we do not address these at some level, our websites likely won't rank. We won't be seen. We'll start to become almost invisible online unless they're doing a specific search for our company. So I just want to make it very, very clear that if you typically go in and Google something near me, these large language models are going out there and they're actually, instead of looking necessarily geographically, they will
Right.
also go and look for these additional experiences and things so that they are producing in their large language model, I'm going to use the word mind, the best match, meaning this one has experience, this one has expertise, rather than the keyword search of, we do X like Google used to do. So that pretty succinct in we have to respond to this. This isn't something that we can go, it's a fad or
Right. The
it's
ship has sailed. The train is out of the station, whatever cliche you want to use. Um, and um, Folks may have heard the term zero click. What does that mean? That means when a query is put into a large language model or into Google, because of the response, traffic, people are not clicking to go through to your website. Now, that doesn't mean they eventually won't, but the answer is typically displayed in whatever platform you're looking at. And how you get included in that is what's being called cited, CITE, you're being cited. And, there are places where um, these AI tools look for on a consistent basis. And so you need to be on those as well. And we can get into that. And so what we're seeing is your ranking may be great. You may be ranking for keywords that are appropriate, but your traffic has fallen off a cliff. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get any more business. It just means that search has shifted and you need to make sure you're showing up in the places where the information is being presented, or the result is exactly what you said. You're going to become invisible.
right. So let me ask you one other question related to this, because when we talk about search engines, a lot of people have been talking about like YouTube and Pinterest as
Right.
search engines as well, right? So they'll say those aren't social platforms, those are search engines. What is your thought on that? Are they also susceptible to the large language models? If you do a search, will YouTube pop up? Or are they still a little bit more kinda isolated from what, Google results are when you get the AI results are? I think even Bing now, which is Microsoft, has trying to remember the name of it. I don't remember now. Copilot.
Right.
So
Microsoft.
so
Yeah.
Right, so even Microsoft will come up in the very first thing instead of having those, used to be like the sponsored posts would come up like the first 3 or 4. Now it actually the AI piece pops up first in just about anywhere you use a search engine. So
Right.
what about YouTube? What about Pinterest, which we are often told that those are also search engines? Are they still subject to the same thing?
Yeah. And so that little piece of information that you talked about that pops up is called a snippet. Um,
Okay.
just the technical term, but yeah, you want to be included in those. Um, and so that's where we get into this acronym, answer engine optimization. It's answering a question and it's presenting some options in that snippet. Um, and there may be like an AI portion at the top and then a little part over to the side that cites the resource where it came from. So, YouTube specifically, let's talk about that. Who owns YouTube? Google.
Right.
And so it's actually YouTube is the second largest search engine. If, if you consider traditional search engine, we'll just kind of knock out these LLMs or large language models to start with. But the beautiful thing about YouTube is not only is it searchable, but it also presents content that people want to consume. In 2025, 82% of all assets or content on the internet was video related. And so people want to see video. And actually, in our studies that we've looked at the time of recording this, When you talk about where AI gets information from, Reddit is probably the top. And I would say YouTube is also up there as well. And so if you don't have content on YouTube, here's your sign. Do it now. You're not too
Okay.
late. And you will show up 300 to 400% more with a YouTube content profile than you will for text-based content. And so I would encourage, I don't have any statistics right now on Pinterest. Maybe I can dig some up and we can include it in the show notes. But I would say anything that's considered a search engine or um, relates to a behavior that people are allowed to search. And so I think that's one of the drawbacks with like a LinkedIn. You can't really search on a LinkedIn platform as readily as you can in other areas. And so it's just a different type of interaction with that platform. But I would say YouTube is a place that you want to be for sure.
All right. So now that we've kind of covered where this is going on in the world. So the LinkedIn is not as easy to search. You definitely want to be looking at these search engines. The train has left the station. It's not coming back in, but you can get on anywhere and start to make these changes. So when we left off the last episode, basically it was like Google yourself. Kind of see, sort of how you're coming up. But now we're going to go part 2 into what are we doing and why. And again, we're going to get into this AEO. And if you are listening out there and you don't have a YouTube and you don't have these other presences, you've been paying for keywords and you have noticed everything going off a cliff. Hopefully this also explains sort of why you've seen this shift probably over, I would say, the last maybe couple quarters to a year. I think is how this has started really coming to the forefront. So, all right, what do we do? What do we do about it? How do
Yeah.
we get up there?
Okay. Well, for those of you who are recording this and going to go back and listen again, um, if you're taking notes and you have some sort of note device, I will tell you that at the end, we will give a link to an email course that really goes into much more detail, has some assignments that, maybe take 5 minutes to go through and then 45 minutes to an hour to implement with your team. It's not a sales pitch. I just want to help educate folks. And so we will have a link to that. So again, probably a lot of fire hose information coming at everybody and just want you to be able to take it and be able to consume it and think through it in your own time. So we'll kind of go through 6 areas and they sort of build on each other. And so let's just get down to the basics. You talked about how SEO used to be and how SEO is now. It's similar, but it's a little different. And so traditional search focused on keyword matching. So if I'm looking for a plumber in Charleston, South Carolina, I would type in plumber Charleston, South Carolina. And as a plumber, you want to make sure that your business owns that search phrase, plumber Charleston, South Carolina, right? There's all sorts of things related to the content on your site, showing up in the map pack, those types of things. That's one area. We call that on-site content. The other thing is backlink quantity and quality. So how many websites are linking to you? That's still a factor, but I would say we're calling it more like digital PR right now and sentiment analysis with AI. So let me break that down a little bit. So in the past, you could pay for backlinks. It's not something that Google likes, but it was a practice that happened. Um, that's trying to game the system. And where that backlink showed up wasn't quite as important. Now, there was a strength of the website that was sending you that link. We call that domain authority or domain rating. And again, I don't want to go too much in the weeds here, but I'm happy to dig in wherever. So there's a ranking from 0 to 100 on every single website. Thankfully, Thrive's website is at about an 80, which is huge. Most professional websites fall in the 30 to 40 score. And the difference between a 30 and a 60 is not double, it's exponential. So it's really hard to go from a 30 to a 60. But Let's say you had a backlink from a website that had a rating of 50. That's very strong. So Google says, oh, well, that's an important website because this other important website is linking to it. What's even more important now is what is on that website that is linking to you. Is it an association of plumbers? Is it a blog about the fashion industry? Well, I would say a lower score of a plumber association is going to have more authority. Remember, we're going back to EEAT than a website about fashion that has nothing to do with plumbing, but has a score of 65 or 70. And so I would say you want to do a backlink audit. And if you don't know what that is, there are many tools out there. Just Google backlink audit. Maybe you're working with a company now that could provide that information for you. The other thing is related to the optimization of the page and where information falls on the page. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So let's just talk about that in a minute. AI prioritizes things a little bit differently. So they want the brand that they are citing or recommending to have authority. And they look at a variety of things. Um, I would say there's about 200 and some ranking factors that affect old SEO, and it's almost like a direct link. So I'll just keep using the plumber analogy. Um, plumber, Charleston, South Carolina. It goes out, it looks for all the websites related to plumbers in Charleston, South Carolina. It looks at a variety of ranking factors, and then it displays 10 links on page one of Google, and you get to pick, okay, which one is it? AI wants to know a whole lot more information. And I would say the stuff that's on your website is important, but also the stuff that's off your website. And again, we'll go back to the EEAT. And if I just look at trustworthiness as one of the EEAT acronym letters, what does that mean? Well, I would say now there's a huge importance on customer reviews. And so
Right.
that relates to sentiment. And so AI is creating this sentiment. And I just want to say one thing. All these changes, I believe, are good because what it's going to do is it's going to sort out the good businesses from the bad businesses. And yes, there's going to be a period of time where people are understanding and how to game it. But overall, um, the goal of these various platforms, because they want people to subscribe to their platform, is to find the best answer for you. Now, Dawn could be searching for something, I could be searching for something, and we could get completely different answers because it's going to learn Dawn's behavior and preferences and my behavior and preferences. So again, it ends up being a much more customized experience with all of this. And so again, we're going through these layers. Um, the other thing that these AI platforms do is they don't present you choices. They want to answer your question, right? And so if I ask the question, who's the best plumber in Charleston, South Carolina, it's not just going to return back a group of 10 links. We call those the 10 blue links, right?
Mhm.
It's going to say, well, it really depends on what your problem is. Are you having pipes dug up and rerouted? Do you have a clogged drain? What is the problem? And so there's this interaction that goes on. And then it wants to answer your question correctly. And so we're going to get into structuring your website so that it can answer the question, right? We call these queries. And then they want to know, does this brand genuinely demonstrate expertise? And again, what
Yeah.
does that mean? So with a plumber, how many certifications, how many customer reviews, how many articles about how-tos and all of those types of things. So you can see if you start to split hairs, it's not that much different, but there are some nuances where it may be time to go back and revise some pages of your website, restructure the order in which things appear. We'll talk about adding a frequently asked questions section to your website, which is a sort of a I wouldn't call it a hack, but I would say it's a differentiator that's going to put you ahead of other businesses that don't have one, and I'll explain why. So I know that was a lot as far as we went through the first segment, but was that clear? Can I?
It it was, but the question that just popped out in my mind, is what about the age of the business? So it used, if you used to rank SEO for your thing and you were kind of a newer business and you didn't have a lot of reviews, you didn't have those things. Well, that now counts against you. If you're somebody who doesn't ask for a review every time you have an interaction, or if you're somebody who has a website and you're working through and maybe, you don't have your certifications up on the website because you didn't realize they were important, those types of things. Are these things that we are going to have to really think through, especially if we're a business that's, let's say, under 3 to 5 years, or the newer website? So you could have a business that's 15 years old, but it wasn't until the pandemic that you decided, hey, we need to be online. They shut down, the brick and mortar for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Does any of that affect how these large language models are looking? Because sometimes for experience, they're going to want to look at years. Or if somebody is going and let's say that they're, restarting a business, or they have taken an older family business and now they're modernizing it a little bit. Are those going to be considerations as far as timeline goes, or the reviews and things? Is that gonna be a big consideration, maybe a little consideration, or they're just not really looking at that? They're looking at the content, and they're not actually looking at when the domain was registered on this 25-year business.
Yeah. Those are awesome questions. And I would say we're in early days, and you could structure a query the exact same way in the same tool, and you're going to get different results because
O
everything is sort of settling in.
okay.
And again, it looks at a variety of factors. And so we run across all of the scenarios that you just went through. Sometimes an older business has gotten a lot of word of mouth,
Yeah.
and that's the way that their business um, has flourished. And then for whatever reason, the community changed, people moved away, generationally things changed. And now they're going, oh my gosh, we never put this much importance on reviews and all of this type of information. So that's one scenario. The other scenario that you mentioned is a startup that has really nothing out there as far as a footprint. And so I would say there are specific things. And again, if we go back to experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness, people are going to know exactly what that acronym stands for by the end. There are things that you can do. And so, what's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago or today? If you haven't been getting customer reviews, start a process to do that. There are many tools out there that will help make that very simple and automated. Um, the other thing that you can do is look at that acronym again. As the business owner, have you ever written a blog? Have you ever been in social media? The other thing that we're seeing is these LLMs are picking up social media posts. It used to be that that was just sort of an extra thing. Well, now it's become even more important. It's also very important to establish that expertise for that business owner or founder or subject matter expert within the organization to step out. What is that person's credentials? Can you get interviewed on local media? Will that interview then be published on a variety of places? A lot of media is syndicated and goes out in a variety of places, right? Um, are you supporting your local community? Are you involved in charities? Are you involved in local service organizations? Are you showing up for ribbon cutting ceremonies? And so there's a lot of things if you're a startup, even if you don't have the tenure as far as the business goes, that you can be doing to trigger those signals of EEAT. And so again, I would encourage people to go through the course, do some extra research, understand that you can't just throw up your hands and go, it's too late. No, you have plenty of opportunity to show up because it's looking at a variety of factors. And you could certainly rank and be cited more than a business that's been around for a long time because you've paid attention to exactly what is important and vice versa. Um, if you are a long-standing organization, use that to your advantage and make sure you fill in any gaps or leaks in your visibility.
All right, perfect. All right, let's get into the tactics.
Okay. So, excuse me.
Just real quick though. The show notes, the transcripts, all that will be available. All the links you need to order the course over these. I just want to make it clear again. We're going to get into the tactics now. This is a 2-part episode. We rarely do 2-part episodes, but there's just so much here. So if you're listening to this and you're like, "Holy moly," take a breath, because we're all here in the same space, and I think that that's a rare thing where all businesses are actually kind of in the same place at the same time to make these changes. So, you could look to your left and look to your right and be like, okay, we all have to do this.
Yes.
And
All
have
arms and
comfort. There's some comfort in that. We're not picking on plumbers, right? We're just saying this is the changes that could affect your local business. Okay. Tactics. Let's do it.
okay. So let's get away from plumbers. Let's say that you're a personal injury lawyer in Chicago, or you're an HVAC. Someone may ask, what's the best personal injury lawyer in Chicago? Or who should I call for emergency furniture, furnace repair?
Okay. Hang on one second. When you say when they ask, they're asking in like Google?
They could type it in. They could talk into their phone. They could talk into their Amazon Alexa device or Google Home or whatever the case may be.
So they're talking to the technology to ask the question. They're not actually asking their best friend or their neighbor or their colleague.
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, just wanted to be clear. Sorry. Okay.
Yes.
So they picked a device, whatever the device is, has batteries or a plug or it's attached to some domain or whatever, and they're asking this specific question to get an answer from that device.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
So what's different with traditional search is Google or Bing or whatever search engine you were using would typically not answer your question. They're just going to return back 10 blue links, right? And then it's up to you to choose which one you're going to go for. Some of those may be an ad, some of those may be an organic link. You may skim down that list and go, well, I've heard about number one. I don't like them. I'm going to go to number two. What the difference is, and that's why it's called answer engine optimization, is these devices or this interface wants to answer your question, right? So you need to structure the content on your website to answer the question in a response format and potentially seated with the question. So that's why I mentioned earlier about a frequently asked questions to your website. I know a lot of people skip over that. I know a lot of people are like, this seems kind of remedial, but this is where you're going to be able to spoon feed these devices the answer to the question. And then you may go, excuse me, just a little tickle on my throat there. All good.
No worries.
You're going to spoon feed these devices the answer to the question. And then, of course, the following follow-up to that is, well, how do I know what the questions are? Well, if you've been in business any amount of time, you probably know, get everybody around for a pizza lunch. And just so, let's start bringing up all the questions, right?
Yeah.
And then we answer those questions on the website. We put the question, we put the answer. And literally, when somebody asks the device, it could read out exactly what's on your website.
All right. So now I have a technical question.
Yes.
So FAQs inside your website, do they need to be, and this is maybe you can't answer, but on the main, search where you have your clickable links and stuff, does it have to appear as like a link on the homepage? Does it need to be in the menu? Do you know? Or if it's on the website and maybe it's not on the menu, you can get to it, but it doesn't have to be like in your face, because I have a feeling that a million websites are going to start having FAQ sections up there. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of people have gotten away from the FAQ section, as far as not only having them on the website, but just going through and reading, is if it's a broad FAQ about the business, they may not feel it's relevant to what they need the information for because it's broad FAQs. It's not, what I'm necessarily looking for. So curious if you can build the FAQs, not necessarily have them as a clickable link. They're on there, they're published inside your website, but they're not, something where you drive navigation from humans themselves. Does that work? Do you know even if that would have some effect? We might have some less
Dawn,
resistance getting people to do that.
Dawn, I love your questions. You're obviously a very educated person in this field, and your follow-ups are awesome. So, and then you said something about general FAQ. I'm going to give you an example of the difference between the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it in just a second.
Okay, great.
Um, okay. So the only way that one of these devices can find the information is to make sure your website can be navigated appropriately by a robot. Yes, I would say there needs to be some navigation that identifies that that's a frequently asked question. There is something else called schema markup, SCHEMA, which identifies, and again, we get into this in one of the later lessons in the course, and there's some actual information in there. So I'm just going to hit it top level right now. But it identifies what things are on your website. And so you would want to have your schema markup identify the fact that this is the frequently asked questions area, so the robot knows which road to drive down when it enters your website.
Amazing.
So
Okay.
the other, so let's talk about a roofing contractor. How would you structure content related to somebody asking a question about roofing? Um, Instead of writing something like, there are many factors to consider when choosing a roofing contractor. Like, that's not answering anybody's question, right?
Right.
That's being general. You should write something to the effect of, the best time to replace your roof is during late spring or early fall when temperatures are moderate and weather is predictable. In the spring, April to May offers ideal conditions for shingle adhesion, while fall, September through October, allows completion before winter. Avoid summer heat above 85 degrees, which can make shingles too pliable, and winter temperatures below 40 degrees, which prevent proper sealing. Now, that's a lot, but that's going to answer somebody's question.
Right.
There are many factors involved in just that paragraph that would allow not only that answer engine to have the information, to recognize your expertise, to have trustworthiness because it's validated that the information that you've just presented is correct. And that's exactly what that answer engine is looking for. And so, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to cause you to rethink. It's going to make you go, really? Do people really want to know that? Yeah, because they're asking for it, and you need to make sure you're not invisible.
Right. Okay. So I have another question then around this time, because I know that a lot of people, business wise, have been taught over years that you get them on your newsletter list and then you educate them and nurture them through newsletters. So let's say that you've actually written an article like this and it went out to your subscribers and it went out
Yep.
to your readers, but it's not captured on your website because you figure, well, websites are supposed to be a little bit more, awareness, and then trust gets built, through email. We've been taught this now for, I don't know how long you've been doing this, 20 years. I'm thinking this is right. So we've been kind of trained as business owners that, well, this is how you do it because you don't own your social media. You don't own the platform. So you get everybody into your world and you do it through newsletters and you do it through this. So, just for everybody who actually does it this way, as we have been trained over the last year, sounds like we may have answered all of these questions in another forum, in another way, and we may be able to just pull that, number one. But number two, the robots can never find your newsletters, can they?
No, and that's perfect. I'm a big fan of exactly what you described. Email is the highest converting channel over any other channel for all the reasons that you expressed. I'm not saying don't continue to do exactly what you're talking about so you can own that audience and communicate them with them in a different way. I would say this answer engine optimization is a channel, and sometimes it may depend on the type of business, right? And so if it's a transactional business, and I've been using a lot of examples like plumbers and roofers and HVAC and those types of things, um, you don't need to nurture somebody through an email campaign to get them to the point where they're going to set an appointment to fix their broken air conditioning, right? If it's 100 degrees outside, they need somebody now, right? However, on the flip side of that, if somebody is thinking about a new build and they want the latest in technology of the most energy efficient, yeah, it's probably going to require a longer conversation. Now, if you're a consultant, a coach, any type of person like that, transactionally, people are probably not going to purchase from an immediate search. You're going to need to nurture them exactly like you said. But there is, and you have to know your customer journey and where in that customer journey, what is top of funnel, what is middle of funnel, what is bottom of funnel, where are all the places that you can be for that first exposure. And so you also may know or may want to investigate what is the search volume for your particular industry and the keywords that you should own, right? And so we're a digital marketing agency. There's a lot of consideration that goes into somebody hiring a digital marketing agency. But we are still making sure that we show up because in the initial evaluation of a consultant, which is basically what we want to make sure that we're in the running. We're part of the conversation. And so these things, again, are nuanced by the industry, the vertical. What is your customer journey? What is your lead flow? Do you have funnels, or are you selling a product? And what is that product? Is it a high end product? Is it a low end product? Those types of things. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of factors that go to it depends. And again, we're just focusing now on this new thing of AI, but it doesn't dismiss all of the things related to traditional approaches. I'm also, if you do great with direct mail, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and put all your focus in AI, right? And so just think through that.
You said something very important, and that is to kind of treat this as another channel, right? Another way to consider another thing. I think that's incredibly helpful because what's doing, what's working, how things are going, what we're actually trying to do is kind of get ahead of the potential to not be found as somebody who has that EEAT and that answer. It comes back to being, the greatest hidden secret, I think. Like, some businesses are just the most fantastic businesses, and they're hidden secrets, and only some people know about them. Not
Yeah.
for any other reason than they just haven't leaned into this, but the danger is that many, many more of us could be hidden secrets outside of our control without treating this as additional channel. I love
Right.
that. I love that. That makes so much sense. Okay. So back to tactics. Sorry. So FAQs, we want to put those together. We want to figure out who is asking what. What else do we need to be thinking about?
Well, let me put some context to those answers so people don't think they need to write pages and pages.
Oh,
I would
great.
say, yeah, give the definitive answers in between 40 and 60 words.
Okay.
Use bullet points, numbered lists, tables, um, so scannable content, well organized content so that the robots can parse it. Um, we also call it snackable content. And the question should be like the subheading in the content. So start with the question, give it the answer with the, you know, structure that I just laid out, and you're going to have a better opportunity to show up either in those snippets that we talked about earlier or through one of these devices that wants to answer your question.
All right. So the next, I guess, question surrounding this is we know that there are indexing time and things that when you make a change, it can happen. Do you have any idea in the industry right now, like how quickly these guys will perk up and go, "Oh, there's one. It's answering the questions," and maybe is this in real time that it's constantly searching, or like Google, sometimes you'll get the same results because there weren't that many changes for a couple of months, or a new site wasn't indexed, or I actually one time dropped a DNS record and was hidden for 3.5 weeks and didn't even notice. Yay me. So what is the timing that you can start to see that, oh, okay, it now knows that we exist? Is this pretty immediate, and will it change its answers? Now, you said absolutely, Jimmy, that it's going to change based on how AI gets to know you. There are still some people that don't trust it, that won't use it, and will still use Google rankings and things, even if those snippets come up. Cool. But if this is that additional channel, how rapidly can you change your visibility by just implementing these things?
Yeah. Great question again. Um, I'm trying to think through to make sure I don't overload the listeners here, but these large language models are categorizing their knowledge base, and they love fresh content. And
Okay.
so, um, what they do is they go through layers of cataloging everything that's out there to add to their uh, brain, if you will. And they love freshness, but they also want to make sure the freshness is relevant. Again, EEAT. And, um, I wrote an article in Forbes specifically because I wanted to position myself as an expert in the area, right? I would say within a few days, I was being cited as an expert for that particular topic on Forbes. Why? Forbes is a highly relevant, highly trusted publication. The topic was topical, timely, and it was new information that I ended up leapfrogging some folks that had been cited for years and years and years. And so, again, I think it goes into what is the content? Where does it reside? What is it about? And how relevant is it to what people are asking questions about? So again, I can't give you a blanket answer to just say, put out a bunch of new content, but
Right.
I would say make sure that that content, and then I would say, like you mentioned earlier, you may already have this content. It just needs a little bit of a dusting off and freshening up. And if we follow this approach with EEAT, don't just put up a blog post, make sure that it has specific information and there's a byline as to who wrote it. And if that byline of who wrote it is the founder, the owner, a subject matter expert with credentials, put that person and a little information about that person at the bottom of the article, which is going to amp up the expertise related to that content. And so we could go through some uh, practical things related to EEAT that would pair well with uh, keeping your content fresh and making sure that you're hitting all those check boxes.
Yeah, if you have a short list, let's go ahead and I know this is gonna run over, and we'll just deal with it because this is so important.
Sure.
I think
I'll
this
just do
is
a short one.
kind of the next frontier, if you will.
Yes, yes. Um, so you want, like I mentioned, with the uh, articles or pages or content, um, if you add a page to your website and it's not particularly a blog, interview people or cite people within the organization. Include their credentials, professional background, relevant education, links to their professional profiles, examples of previous work. Case studies are awesome. They love case studies. And then just going through my notes here to make sure we hit all the top ones. Um, if you don't have a secure site certificate on your website, make sure it's, HTTPS. The other thing from a technical aspect, again, it goes back to trustworthiness. You want to make sure that your website is fast. If your website is not fast or it's not mobile optimized, you're going to get penalized and it's going to drive you down. And you can Google basically uh, what's called core web vitals, and there's some check marks that you want to make sure you adhere to related to that. Um, if you are a local business, make sure you're included in local directories. Make sure, if you can partner with another company and there can be a profile on each other's websites, that's awesome. Um, we talked about the schema markup code. If you have images on your website, make sure they're compressed and don't take a lot of time to load. That's a big mistake that we see. Um, video. I would say if you want to add some video, do that, but you can also embed that video on your website and then also host that video on YouTube. It's a free hosting, right? You don't have to pay for extra video hosting, and then you get the benefit of what's being hosted. So I think that gives folks a whole lot to do. I can kind of run through like a first 30 days of what you should focus on if people are confused about what they should tackle first.
Right. And
So we,
hang on, this is also one other place to say, get the email course. So we're gonna talk through kind of the next steps. We've talked about the tactics, the philosophy, why it
Yep.
changed, how the train left the station, why Google is Googling and YouTube is important. But let's also remind everybody there is help with this that you are generously providing to businesses. So just before we get into what do we do in the next 30 days, let's just make sure that we give another little plug that help here is really available. And as a business owner myself, and then also just kind of hosting this thing, I incredibly appreciate it because, yeah, this is going to support sort of the next evolution of what we need to do. And, the step by step is incredibly helpful because some of it may have to be delegated, all the things. So get the course. All right. Well, enough
yes.
fun. Okay, let's do the
And
first 30 days.
sure, sure. And with the course, again, it's not a sales pitch. We genuinely want to help people. So don't go into it thinking, I'm going to get spammed. It's 7 days. If you want to communicate with me, that's great. If not, you want to take this to your agency or person you work with, uh, go for it. So first 30 days, I would say week one, you just need to figure out where you are, assess what's going on and get some quick wins. So I would say look at your top 10 most important pages and figure out if somebody was searching for something on that page, put it in one of these AI tools, put it in Google AI mode and see if your page shows up. Just try it out. Um, we talked about schema markup on key pages. So, any kind of local business pages, the FAQs section, reviews, if you have those kind of combined on your page. Um, if you don't know what that is, it's not difficult, but you will probably need somebody technically minded to put that schema markup. Um, and then just run a test on Core Web Vitals. So you can just Google Core Web Vitals or page speed optimization, and some links will come up that will test. Just beware that there are a lot of businesses out there who are looking at those and trying to get you signed on for something. Just make sure it's a Google page that you're doing that check on. Week two, I would say look at your content strategy. Identify 20 conversational search things that uh, potential clients would be searching for. Um, Audit your existing content to see if it follows that answer engine optimization or answer first structure and approach. And again, all of these answers don't have to be on a frequently asked questions page. It could be on a service page. And just include that answer in the first paragraph of that page. And then I would say create your first piece of optimized content. And then you want to, and again, this is technical too, but look at your Google Search Console. If that's not set up, talk to your IT person about getting that set up. And it will show you in Google Search Console if you are showing up in AI overview searches. So
Okay.
that's a kind of behind the scenes thing to check on. Um, and then I would say week 4, if you do have articles on your site, a blog, make sure there's an author and the credentials are on those. Create an About Us page or revise your About Us page with all of the trust signals and, if there's a case study, if there's key people within the organization who have impressive credentials, put those on that page. I would say any kind of customer testimonials, if you don't have them, go get some. Um, and then put schema markup to let the robots know that these are customer testimonials.
I do
And then yeah, go
one
ahead.
quick question about that, because you're saying if there are customer testimonials. So if, for example, a coffee roastery, we'll use mine, has Google reviews and has Yelp reviews and has reviews from all the places that we just sort of show up because we're in food production, those aren't on our website. If you go to Google Maps and you say, where's this roastery?
Yep.
That's where that shows up. So you're saying this also needs to now appear somewhere on the website itself.
I would say, again, it's going to depend specifically on the type of business. And I would say for your type of business, you don't want to cut and paste and bring
Right.
those duplicated onto your website. There are tools that will allow a feed from those platforms onto your website so folks can see them. And maybe it just shows the latest ones. Um, I would say if you're not in the habit of replying to reviews, get in the habit because all of these platforms want to know that this is an active conversation, even if it's a bad review. And there are many studies out there to say if you get a bad review, don't try to delete it unless it's a incorrect review. And then don't take that conversation offline. Have that conversation in public, and it can actually increase, um, the folks that have a strong positive feeling about you because they know that you're not going to be right for everybody. So I would say uh, feed those platforms into your website. If you're a consultant, maybe it's not a place where people are going to be reviewing you in a similar way. And those are testimonials that you could have on your website in a little different way.
Very nice. Thank you so, so much. All right. Final thoughts on week 4, because I did just interrupt you with
No,
that. When
that's
you
fine.
brought up reviews, I just wanted to, because I do know that there are a ton of businesses that get those Google reviews. And I know restaurants often get Yelp reviews. And I know that reviews, even comments on like YouTube videos, if, somebody does something. So I just wanted to make sure it was very, very clear that we're not going out and asking for like, hey, you already did Google, you already did Yelp, thank you for your comment on the YouTube video, and now da 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 da, we need to do it on the website. That's not the case. So we don't have to ask for reviews 4 or 5 different ways.
Right. But there's nothing going to prevent you, Dawn, from looking through those reviews, recognizing some regulars at your business, taking out your iPhone and sitting there and saying, what do you love? Why do you come here every single morning? And why do you always order that exact same drink? Like, why is this Americana better than the Americana at the blue logo place down the street? Right.
Sure.
And so that is real. That is, the transcripts of that video can be searched. Put that on YouTube and that's gold. So kind of think the next step. Great. Yeah, I've got all these reviews. How can I turn those into more human centered, cool stories to have as part of the brand?
Love it. Love it. All right, we're way over time, but I don't care. This is such an important video. So number one, we're gonna put everything down in the show notes, including um the course. You need to go get the course. Do you have any other final tips, strategies? How can people find you? We're just gonna put that down there again, but it's gonna look the
Sure. Yeah.
same.
I post on LinkedIn pretty much every day with some sort of tip or helpful thing, so folks can connect with me, DM if you have a question about this episode. The agency is Thrive Internet Marketing Agency. The URL is thriveagency.com. If we can help you, great. If I can point you in the right direction, great. I would say everybody take a deep breath. Don't try to swallow the elephant all at once, one bite at a time, and prioritize your activities, and you'll be set up to be successful. So I just want it to be more of an optimistic conversation than the world is coming to an end conversation. And, there's a lot of negative out there related to the pick a platform and somebody's got something bad to say about it. I would say the positive that I see is that it is making a more personalized experience, and the underlying goal is to find you the answer you're looking for in the most efficient way. And yeah, it's a new world.
It really is. And after 20 years in the industry, you've seen everything. So we know that this too shall pass. It just is, right? It just is.
Yeah.
It's just another little business thingy. It just is. So, the best thing that we can do is get on board and work with it instead of trying to go against it. And we'll be much happier on the other end of running our businesses as well. So
Yes.
I can't thank you enough for all of your time. It's almost 2 hours of you really breaking this down and helping business owners, and I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. And we just have a heart for people leveraging the power of the internet, and this is a major component of it.
I love them. All right. We will talk to y'all next time on the next episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. And if you have any questions, put them below. And I always forget to ask you to like the video or subscribe to the podcast. I have to do that now. I've gotten gigged on that by my editor at least 16 times in the last year. So I have to put that on there as well. Thank you so much. Get your email course, and I'll talk to you the next time at the Business Mastery Podcast. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to dawnkennedy.com, and you can now check us out on YouTube, as well as, of course, any of your favorite platforms that host podcasts. Take care.